So Brandon Hyde talked to the media today just a little bit ago about this. And Brad, I'll pull up the video myself because I downloaded it.
All right.
Here's Brandon Hyde talking about the recent situation with Grayson Rodriguez.
Start off with a little bit of news. Grayson was supposed to throw a side this afternoon. We scratched the side a day or two ago. He went and got imaging this morning. He woke up a few days ago with a little bit of soreness in his shoulder area. So we're getting imaging this morning. The results have not come back on that yet.
So right there, scratch from the side, new imaging because of a new injury. For me, it's still, everything is all correlated and related. I know they can say new imaging. The reality is what Grayson's been dealing with and then having the soreness around, I think it still goes all back to the lat injuries and issues that he's had the last couple of years. Because once that starts, and when we've talked with Yoni, Dr. Yoni, with True Sports Physical Therapy and being around the game, I've told you guys, the lat is so tricky.
Yep.
The lat then can cause you to be put into other awkward positions, and then that can have a trickle-down effect of how you're pitching. And how many times have we heard, or even Grayson has talked about trying to protect himself? And look, since he's had his first lat injury back in 2022, how many lat injuries he's had, and then how many shoulder injuries he's had. And now it's starting to go towards the elbow. I am an optimist, guys. I'm always an optimist, but I'm a realist. I'm not going to expect the Orioles to have Grayson Rodriguez available anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Grayson Rodriguez at all this season. And I know it's not what people want to hear, and I hope that's not the case. But I think the best case scenario is you try to get Grayson back the second half of the season minimum. Like that's like the best case scenario. But it sure does feel, from what I've seen, that this is something that we might just have to wait to see Grayson Rodriguez till 2026. I'm not trying to jump to that part, Zach, but the injury history is a problem. And also, I don't want to put him at further risk and miss more time. And I think that's what they're trying to evaluate right now.
Yeah, I'm not too optimistic about anything with Grayson at this moment, simply because, like you said, not only with the injury history, we've seen this for multiple years, but it is unfortunate that right now there is a possibility, I think, that we don't see him this year. I think that they need to take this as cautiously as possible, because the worst thing that you can do is you push him to come back in July or something, or even August, and then he hurts something even more, and now suddenly you're dealing with, does he even pitch, to start 2026? If there is, until he is completely healthy, you have to let him rest. Just another massive, I don't want to call it a massive blow to the Orioles, because I felt like we never really had an actual grip or timetable for Grayson. It was all just kind of, he's progressing. Like, he's throwing, and you never really heard anything positive coming from it. But this is definitely any sort of optimism that you had of, okay, I think we see Grayson soon, or within the next 2 months, that's out the window. You gotta, I would say, like you said, the optimist in me is saying, let's see him in the second half and go from there. The realist in me that also knows the injury history and stuff is saying, we'll see if we see Grayson Rodriguez this year.
I really don't feel optimistic about with the setback, because right now you got to keep in mind, when you're trying to build up and you have something else that's popping up. And I think I told you guys this, and I hope this isn't the case. This is just from what I've experienced with playing and being around the game, is that when you are dealing with one thing and you can't get to that intensity up because something else happens, that's a sign for a problem. I also don't like, in general, when we're talking about having any type of inflammation around the elbow, usually down the road, if it's been, as we've seen this, lat, shoulder inflammation last year to now shoulder fatigue to then the elbow situation to another shoulder issue, something's going to give here, whether that is you just need extended rest or you're going to need something fixed. That's just from what I've seen. So for right now, for Grayson, you got to hope for the best. But for the Orioles, then let's go to this other side then, Brad, because now let's just you cannot rely that you're going to have Grayson moving forward.
Right.
You can't. So in this case, if Grayson is unavailable for a while, then what do you have? Now you're really getting thin. I mean, they're already thin to begin with here, but Wells is not going to be ready for a while. Zach Eflin, it was positive when he said, I'm looking to get back soon, but as we talked to Yoni as well, it was saying best case scenario, 3 to 4 weeks, which right now this would put Eflin at approaching almost 2 weeks of him getting back to throwing, right? So that could be on that timeline of best case for Eflin. Gibson will be here soon, but you lose another starter, you got to look from within, or you got to really explore what is out there in the landscape of Major League Baseball. But guys, I don't even think that they would make a trade in April. It's not because the Orioles wouldn't be interested.
Why would the other team?
Most teams don't want to make trades in April.
Yeah.
Even the Marlins, who are, I would say, as dead set on they're going to get rid of Sandy as they are, unless the Orioles literally went to them and were like, hey, we'll give you Mayo and Basayo right now. Why would they? They can drive up the price. They can see what happens.